As we get closer to next year's Iowa caucuses, we have more and more presidential candidates dropping out, and the latest example is Tim Scott. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video today. It is time that we talk about the 2024 Republican presidential primary, because everyone, late last night, we received a word from this Tim Scott campaign, well actually, Tim Scott himself on Fox News, that his campaign for president has been suspended, which came out of left field. We didn't hear a single word about this, not a hint that this was going to happen. Hell, not even the campaign knew about this, but Tim Scott, late last night on Fox News, announced his campaign was done. He is the latest example of a failed presidential candidate, and the field continues to narrow as we get closer to the Iowa caucus. But first, before we continue with today's video, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Guys, just for $1 a month, you could join Real American. This is the best way to support the daily content that we all know and love. So I hope and recommend you join the channel today. Alright, everybody, now let me be clear. No one knew this was going to happen. Yes, there were signs that maybe the campaign was done, but nobody thought he was going to suspend his campaign out of blue last night. And apparently, I believe that they sent out a fundraising email just like 10 minutes before he suspended. So there are many questions to what happened, just why. Why did he announce on Fox News that, yeah, I'm dropping out? Just out of the blue, nobody heard about it, but let's get into it. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, who tried carving out a space in the Republican presidential field with a hopeful message built on his life story. The son of a single mother, he rose from poverty to become the only black Republican in the Senate. Announced on Sunday he was suspending his campaign. Which, I do agree that he did have, even if I disagreed with it, some kind of message of hope, saying, you know, we got to bring back God to the forefront. The best days are ahead, you know, we have to look at the future and all that stuff. I did like some of the positive messaging that Tim Scott had, because my problem with a lot of these Republicans, and you could say what you want about if it's, you know, warranted or not, but the constant doom and gloom about, oh, it's over, you know, the communists have taken over, you know, it's over, we are never going to win again. It's like, nobody wants to hear that. People want to hear a message of a hopeful future. Sure, there are definitely dark days ahead, I believe, but people don't want to hear the constant dooming and glooming about every little thing. So I give Tim Scott that credit. I've always said that I like Tim Scott as a personally. Politically, though, not so much. His policies were all over the place, incoherent, you know, it's like, he's somebody that you can have a good conversation with, like, person to person, but politically, not so much. I think the voters who are the most remarkable people on the planet have been really clear that they're telling me, not now, Tim, Mr. Scott said on Sunday evening on Trey Gowdy's program on Fox News. I don't think they're saying, Trey, no, but I do think they're saying, not now, which I agree with. You know, because a lot of people just don't know Tim Scott, and the ones that do, they're like, we like you, but number one, this isn't your time. Number two, it's clear that your campaign really hasn't gone anywhere, so you should probably pack it up. And I'm glad that Tim Scott finally realized that, you know, this campaign was done. He barely made the debate stage despite having hundreds of millions of dollars behind him. It's like, well, not good. Mr. Scott said he had no intention of endorsing another candidate in the Republican primary race. The best way for me is to be helpful is not to weigh in, he said. He also brushed off the idea that he could serve as someone else's running mate. Being the vice president has never been on my to-do list, he said. Oh, bullcrap. Bull crap. We heard the reports from, I believe, Political like 6 months ago that Tim Scott kind of wanted to be the VP. You know, and it was like a bunch of sources like confirmed it. It's like, sure, no one wants to be the VP, but, you know, because you really don't do much, but if you want to move up in the world, which Tim Scott wants to, obviously, now, being the VP could be the step forward to be the future president. Just saying. Mr. Scott's decision was in many ways unsurprising. He had struggled in the polls and with recent fundraising, and would have had to hit a new threshold of 80,000 donors, as well as a higher number of public opinion surveys, in order to qualify for the next debate sponsored by the Republican National Committee, which will be held in December. And that's why. That's why he dropped out, because if he couldn't make the next debate, what's the point? At this point in time, if you're not even cracking the debate stage, you're dumb enough to be running already, but if you don't even crack that debate stage where 10 million people are going to watch, what's the frickin' point? Mr. Scott conducted the Fox News interview from a television studio in his home and told his staffers on a call after he spoke to Mr. Gowdy, according to a person familiar with the events. A number of staff members learned that the campaign was being suspended from watching TV. 3 people familiar with the matter said. And that's the part that really makes me wonder what happened. Because it sounds like out of left field that not even the campaign knew Tim Scott was going to say his campaign was done. For one, I think that's a bad thing of Scott, to not tell his campaign staffers we're closing up shop. At least give them like a 24-hour warning or something. But just not say a single thing that they have to learn from TV that their campaign is done. I like Scott again. I think he's not the best politically, but that seems kind of like a jackass move to not tell your essentially your staff that you're not ending the campaign. Mr. Scott had canceled events in Iowa over the weekend, with his campaign saying he had the flu, which never made much sense. And he began Sunday with a cryptic message on X, formerly known as Twitter, that cited proverbs. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your misunderstanding. On your own understanding, in all the ways you submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Which I don't think that's just random. It's Sunday. You know, it's like Bible verses. Like, why does New York Times have to mention that? I don't think it's really cryptic. But it may make sense in hindsight, but whatever. In a mark of how frozen the campaign for the Republican nomination has been for months, with former President Trump dominated by double digits in every poll, it only bolstered among his voting base by the 4 indictments he faces. Mr. Scott's apparent departure on Sunday night caused little stir. Yeah, I mean, it was big news, but nobody was, like, crying that Tim Scott dropped out. It's like, okay, bye. That's the response you got. Mr. Scott, who was 58 and the first black Republican elected to the Senate from the South since Reconstruction, entered the race in May with a far more hopeful message than the often apocalyptic tenor of some in the Republican field, including Mr. Trump, which again I'll give Scott credit for having a more hopeful message. But Mr. Scott's brand of sunny optimism found no traction in the modern GOP, where the impulse among the party's core voters, encouraged by Mr. Trump, is to be combative. Well, not necessarily. A lot of voters like Youngkin. A lot of voters like Lee Zeldin. You know, it just with Scott, the problem was he sucked politically. He said, we gotta bomb Iran. We have to start a war over there. And his incoherent message on aid to Ukraine, it's like, do you support aid to Ukraine or not? Well, we have to look into it more. It's like, where is the clear message of, do you support more or you're opposed to more? Well, we have to make another package for Israel and the border. It's like, okay, whatever. He found himself crowded out in the race to become the top Republican alternative to Mr. Trump in Iowa, by rivals including Nikki Haley, a fellow South Carolinian and a former governor of the state, and DeSantis of Florida. Mr. Scott began his campaign with $22 million in fundraising, a substantial war chest to put him in a position of financial strength. He spent millions of dollars on TV ads, bolstering his candidacy. His poll numbers remained stagnant, He never produced a breakout moment on the campaign trail. Which, most of that money, mind you, came from this Senate election. And makes you really wonder, did the GOP establishment try to, like, get Scott the money needed to run for president back in 2022 when they suddenly began to promote him, like, every day, like, he needs to be, we need to fundraise $10 million for him. We're going to spend another $30 million on him. It's like, wait a minute. On South Carolina for his Senate election? Wait a minute here. That seems a bit odd that you would spend that much on a state that everybody knew Tim Scott was winning. But either way, folks, Tim Scott has in fact dropped out. His campaign is done. Kapooey, it's over. I don't know what his future is. Personally, I don't see him running, or he may run in 2028, but I just don't see him ever becoming president. You know, it's, you know, I know people are going to say, oh, well, he didn't really, you know, gain momentum, and there's still possibility for the future, but it's like, is anybody really going to vote for Tim Scott at a national scale? I don't think so. But who knows? Another question remains, now the question is, who else is going to drop out? Who is the next bozo to drop out? Because really who you got left is Christie, Haley, Ramaswamy, DeSantis, and Trump. Obviously Trump is staying in. I think DeSantis is also. I'm starting to wonder if somebody like Haley will drop out next. Just gotta see what happens. But anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Thank you so much. Godspeed to all of you.